Hello everyone and welcome back to the Pottery Corner, my studio down on the south coast of England near Chichester. And today we're in the kiln room for a change. So I haven't done a kiln opening for quite some time because of lockdown and having had no students here for 5.5 months, nearly 6 months. So they're due back next week. So I thought that I would just try and get through my glaze work before they came back. So I've just done a kiln of cast mugs, and I've reglazed and refired the base section for a fountain that I'm making. So I thought that I would just do a quick kiln opening this week. It's down to 10 degrees centigrade. It was cold yesterday, so I'm just going to turn the kiln supply off, open Mungo up, and we will see what we have. So as I was saying, in here I have cast mugs. So you'll remember from the plaster mould making video of a few weeks ago that I made a mould using a flower pot with a rounded bottom made with clay, and this is the plaster mould. So this is what I've been using to use casting slip. So this is casting slip, so it actually comes ready-made in buckets like this, and it's super smooth and very light actually once it is fired. So I've been casting slip into the mould, and I'll do a video on casting at another time, but I wanted to just try it out myself a little bit more than I have done in the past, and also I wanted to make some different shaped moulds, so we'll do that in another video. So this kiln has just the casting mugs inside, and this is how they come out. So what I've done on here is I have painted some underglaze around the mug, and then used an Ellen transfer. This one is called Hydrangea, and just put an Ellen transfer over the top of the underglaze. I quite like the way that that looks almost like watercolour underneath there, so it's not like a solid block of colour, if you can see. But actually it sort of almost looks like it's been painted in watercolour. I quite like that effect. And then I've just popped on one of the knitted cable handles. So that's made using a silicone mould. And again, there's a video on that. And this particular piece was standing on one of the kiln props that we made in the video a couple of videos ago. So that has been stood on this kiln prop like so. And as you can see, it has warped the bottom a little bit, not terribly much, and there's a little tiny bit of the transparent glaze on the top of the pieces of wire on this kiln prop, which again I hope that you can see, but it's not too bad, it's not too bad. So that one is rather lovely. Now the other two on this top shelf, because you do know that I've had a little sneaky peek, are standing on the conventional, because I wanted to show you the difference between the two. So this has been stood on a conventional bought kiln prop, and these, as I was saying in the previous video, these cost about £2 each, so you only really get sort of 2 or 3 goes with them before you have to chuck them away. But what is so dangerous about them is that when they flick off the bottom, they leave this shard of extremely sharp, and I mean it is needle sharp, that shard on there, which is stuck to the glaze, which I will have to grind off, or I can knock it off and then I'll have to grind off with my file. I'll have to grind that off, whereas on the one that we had the metal kiln prop on, there is nothing on the base at all. You can see that that is, you know, it's nice and smooth. It might have taken away a tiny little bit of the actual glaze, but it hasn't left a shard, and it hasn't left anything for me to grind off. So that saves the process when things come out of the kiln. And as I've said before, if you forgot that that shard was there and ran your hand over the bottom, you are going to have a serious injury. So that's why I don't like these ceramic props, and I thought that I would just show you the difference between the two. So that's left me with a job to do. Now this one was actually the first mug that I poured into the mould, and I probably was being a little bit hurried in trying to get it out, and interestingly it has warped, as you can see, so it's not quite round, and that's probably because I slightly forced it out of the mould. So lesson to self, leave them until they are hard enough to drop out of the mould without having to try and sort of wiggle them out, as it were. But I've just decorated that. Actually, most of the decoration on here I actually put into the mould itself. So I put the underglaze on the mould and then poured the slip in because I wanted to see if it would transfer, and indeed it has. So the orange part of this was put into the mould. But as you can see, it wasn't very easy to control the slip inside the mould. But it's definitely doable. So the blue, again, this grid, I put inside the mould using a henna bottle full of underglaze. I put it inside the mould before I poured the slip, but it has transferred really nicely. So that's actually quite a good way of using underglaze in a plaster mould. And this one I've just done a pattern handle and just repeated the underglaze, but I need to watch my fingers on that one because of the prop. Right, third one. So this one, again, I've put on a standard prop. And interestingly, this one, again, just lifting that off, there's 2 shards on that one. So again, well, actually 3, that one's very sharp. You can see, again, you know, I'm going to have to get my file out, and that just means it's another process for me to do. So this one has blue underglaze, and then again this is an Ellen transfer with the dice on, and as you can see this one clearly popped out of the mould when it was dry enough, and therefore it is round. So the difference between those two, this one actually is quite oval and that one is round, as you can see. So clearly I need to be more patient and let the slip release from the side of the mould before I tip it out, rather than trying to sort of prise it out, just being impatient, that's all. Right, so we've got half shelves and bits and pieces going on in here because I've got a big piece in this kiln. So I'm going round it. Okay, so that one again is on a kiln still. Now, see how easy that was to just pull that off of there. So there's no pressure applied, and as I say, you know, that has done its job, and there is actually there's no grinding to do on the base of there at all. Again, that's another Ellen transfer with the citrus slices, which is lovely. I really like that, and I've ombreed the underglaze, so we've got yellow and orange, and just ombreed it down. So I quite like the way that comes out. I like the transfer. It's a nice one. It's nice and fresh looking. Next mug. As you know, I get a bit of a thing about sort of doing processes, so I make quite a few in one batch. Right, this one has slightly held. Oh no, it's coming off. It's fine. So again, we've used one of the props from there, but that one was slightly more embedded, but it hasn't gone through into the actual piece itself. But you can see that it has embedded, with the wire has just left a little mark on there. But again, that's a lovely mug. That one is a sandbow transfer, so I've used a violet coloured underglaze with a blue sandbow transfer from that different company. And again, I mean, you know, that's a pretty little mug, very nice, very girly. I like that one. Next half shelf, In fact, that is the last half shelf. Oh, blimey, he says, nearly dropping it. Take the props out, we don't like those. Haven't said that for a while. Props out. Okay, let's see what we've got. So this one is the Hydrangea in a different colourway. So this one is like a lovely, it's actually called Bramley Green Underglaze. I'm trying to get that off the bottom of there. It will come, but I'm not going to, oh, there we are. Yeah, again, see, there's no cleaning to do on there. So those stilts have been very effective. So this one, again, is the Hydrangea Transfer, but with a different colour underneath. So this was the pink and that was the green. So it actually works really well with that nice soft pale green, works really well. And that's a lovely transfer. And you can, I've seen on Instagram, a lot of people actually filling in the flowers with blue or pink, which actually is it's a good idea. So again, a nice usable mug, very pretty. And the last, no, it's not the last one, but next to last one. Again, I was playing with the transfers. Yeah, I'm pleased with those kiln stilts. They pop off nicely. And that is the donut transfer from Ellen Transfers. And that is a pink underglaze. I probably should have put a little bit more transfer on, but I didn't want a great big circle of donuts, so I cut out the decal, the underglaze decal sheets, and just used what I wanted to use. So actually I'm quite pleased with that, and I did think actually that these donut ones might be quite a good candidate for using some luster, so I could put some luster on here, perhaps on the icing, and then luster fire them. I thought that would be quite a good idea, so that's that one. I'm just going to move those out of the way because in the bottom of this kiln is a very large piece. So I've made a two-part fountain. Because of obviously the load in my kiln, I can't make something that's very tall, so I quite often make things in parts. And I've made this this section for the water, and it's very heavy. It's made in craft crank because it will go outside. And this was inspired by a holiday that we were lucky enough to take that my father paid for. And we went to the Caribbean in January 2020. So literally we got back in early February and then COVID kicked off. So we were lucky that we weren't over in the Caribbean and got caught over there, although mind you, be a nice place to be caught. And Sally, I'm just going to shout out to Sally Roper on Jamaica, who she's got a YouTube channel. Have a look at it, it's really sweet. She does some lovely pieces, great thrower. So hello to you, Sally, if you're watching. And it did make me laugh when you said that it wasn't a very nice day in Jamaica, because yesterday we had hail here, and I thought to myself, well, it can't possibly be hailing in Jamaica, so whatever weather it was nicer than what we had. Anyway, so I have glaze fired this piece, which has turtles inside because we saw the turtles in Barbados, and I've made a sprig of some coral that I picked up off of the beach. But actually, when it came out of the kiln, I wasn't really terribly happy with this underglaze colour on the background. It's not quite me. So I thought, well, the only way to deal with that is actually to reglaze it. So the base is the same. It was in the same colourway. And I was just going to show you this. I'm sure that you've probably seen these before, but I have used them for my work, and they are solar powered fountains. So it's literally, you just pop it in the water, and then it has a little thingy that goes on the top, spout, and then it's solar powered, so when the sun is on it, it shoots water. Actually, they're not very expensive. No wires, no batteries, no nothing. You just stick them in the water and they work when it's sunny. I mean, if you want your fountain to work all the time, not so useful, but actually, you know, most of the time in the summer it will go, and then in the winter I just bring it back in, pop it back in the bag and in the box, and then pop them out again in the summer. So they're really very useful things if you are a maker and thinking, how am I going to get water flowing into something? So it's actually really quite useful. So the base I have reglazed, and it's standing in here on loads of cookies, because I was worried, because I'd used seaweed. As you can see, it's a huge piece. As I'd used seaweed, and we all know how Amico seaweed likes to flow very well. So that actually I have got a couple of very large cookies actually stuck on the bottom of here, which I will need to lock off. But I'm sure that you can see that having applied, I applied Texture Turquoise, Amico's Texture Turquoise, Amico's Sky and Seaweed. And actually that colour is so much better where it has sort of held in the texture. So actually it was worth refiring it. This one that has got a turtle on the other side. I'm just going to turn it round so you can see. So there's a turtle on this side, on this piece, and then the bowl sits in the neck of this stand, as I say. So that's two-part. So now that I have reglazed this and it has come out so much better than it was, I'm going to reglaze the bowl and add the same glazes so that it matches. But this is so much better, so I'm glad that I did that. And sometimes if you take a piece out of the kiln and you look at it and think, no, that's not right, actually it is worth spending a little bit of time reglazing it. And if you look in one of the other videos, there's an explanation of how to do that. But basically the way that I do it is I spray the piece with just ordinary hairspray. I don't put it on so that it's dripping, but I give it a good coat of hairspray, and then I let the hairspray dry before I add the glazes over the top. And because the piece is no longer porous, the glaze takes ages to dry, and I mean ages. Sometimes it can take a day or 2 days depending on the ambient temperature in your studio. So leave the glazes to dry between different colours as you would normally on a porous piece, but it will take time for you to do. So kind of do a layer and put it aside and leave it to dry, and then do another layer after that. But as you can see, the difference between this this glazing on this piece here and this section with just the underglazes on the top part, it's so much better. So that was definitely worth doing. So that is your lot today. Not much to talk about, other than to say obviously the students are back next week, which is great news. So we shall have a few more kiln opening videos with the students working, which is always interesting. It's great to see how other people interpret making clay. But the lockdown's been really useful because obviously I've had time to do a lot of YouTube tutorials, which I know you're all enjoying. And if you haven't had a look at the tutorials, there's the sculptural poppy head and the monoprinting, to name but two. So have a look at the other playlists on the channel. In the meantime, keep yourselves safe and well. We're coming sort of out of lockdown next week, which will be nice just to be able to get back to some normality. So I hope you're all doing okay. Give me a comment, let me know where you are in the world, because you know we're still using the map and working out where everybody is viewing from, and it's really interesting to know where you're viewing from. And as usual, anything you want to comment on or ask a question, please do. I do try to reply to all of your comments. And ring the bell and subscribe so that you're notified of the content coming out every week. So as I say, happy potting, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.